Just one more, Lucy, then I promise.
It's 1974 in a dark Vienna cabaret. A beautiful young actress with hooded blue-green eyes and a knowing half-smile takes the stage wearing only an SS officer's hat, trousers, and suspenders. The audience on screen, including the who wants to her, watches enthralled as she performs a seductively macabre dance. Critics recoiled, called the scene obscene and the film itself a despicable shocker. Yet others hailed it as a daring exploration of the psyche's darkest recesses. This was Charlotte Rampling's entrance into legend, scandalous, misunderstood, and utterly impactful. In one role, she became the poster child for transgressive 70s art house film, her image forever a subject of debate. Few actresses have been so condemned and so celebrated in the same breath, and Rampling wouldn't have had it any other way. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. She took the very things that could have broken her, personal tragedy, societal taboos, the fear of aging, and turned them into art. She mastered the power of mystery. A single icy stare from Charlotte could be more alluring and intimidating than 1,000 words. Her secret, if anything, was being uncompromising, a refusal to prettify or please. From performing a cabaret in a uniform to refusing to get a facelift in an industry obsessed with youth, she always did it her way. But if you'd like a bit more of an explanation, follow me.
Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint.
I've spent a whole week researching, watching, and editing all things Charlotte to bring you her very essence. Before we dive in, a quick toast to our amazing channel members.
Can you toast with tea, though?
You make these researches possible, and I am so grateful. If you'd like to join as a member and get access to members-only podcast episodes where we spill extra tea on icons like Charlotte, consider hitting the join button. I've also designed a special Charlotte Rampling t-shirt just for this video's launch. It's a little wearable piece of her iconic style, and it's linked here if you want to check it out. And of course, if you enjoy this, please do hit like and subscribe for more beauty blueprints. Don't be shy about chiming in with comments as we go. I'd love to hear any and all of your thoughts. Now, what are the ingredients of Charlotte Rampling's unique, immediately recognizable persona? We're talking about an uncanny beauty that somehow radiated both sensuality and danger. A gaze so direct it could pin you to the wall, making you feel seen or judged, or both. A life story that swings from swinging 60s hedonism to the depths of grief and back again. A fearless willingness to court controversy, whether posing nude for Helmut Newton or playing a woman who falls in love with her torturer, that earned her a reputation as cinema's ultimate femme fatale of the avant-garde. And yes, we'll get to that infamous uniform scene in The Night Porter, and why it still gets people so riled up. We'll also explore how she crafted her image through fashion. Think men's tuxedos and trench coats on a smoldering female body, and how her philosophy of beauty and aging might just change the way you look at the mirror. Stick around, because by the end of this video I'll even serve a breakdown of what we can learn, very practically speaking, from the unique Charlotte Rampling. Settle in, maybe grab yourself a glass of full-bodied French red wine, Charlotte's drink of choice in real life, heavy and complex. And let's start our analysis by understanding who Charlotte Rampling really is, and how she came to be the face of fearless, taboo-breaking cinema. Here's a little backstory. Charlotte Rampling was born in 1946 under the sign of Aquarius, fittingly for someone who would spend her life defying convention. By the way, Charlotte and I share a birthday. She grew up in an England still shaking off wartime dust. Her father, Godfrey Rampling, was an army officer and actually an Olympic gold medalist. And her mother, Isabel Anne, was an artist and heiress. As a teen, she was shuttled between elite private schools in England and France, picking up not just fluent French, but a worldly, restless outlook. A pivotal moment came at age 14, when Charlotte performed a little cabaret number at a school event, decked out in fishnet tights and berets, singing French songs. I felt so great on stage. I was absolutely in tune with myself at that moment, she remembers. That was the first taste of a power she knew she possessed, the power to command attention. In her own words, I knew that I had sex appeal. I didn't have to wait for the boys to come, I had it. And to put that energy into performing is very powerful, and it's very sexy too, she said. Sexuality for Rampling is an energy, something emanating from within that she can harness. By 17, Charlotte had been discovered by an advertising agent while she was waitressing in London. She snagged a role in a Cadbury chocolate commercial, of all things, and from there, small film parts followed. One of her early parts was as a dancer in the 1964 Beatles movie, A Hard Day's Night. Then came Georgie Girl, where she played a beautiful, free-spirited party girl opposite Lynn Redgrave. The trailer gushed over Charlotte's character as a sexy little dish, and indeed, Rampling, with her lithe figure and coal-lined eyes, quickly became a symbol of the swinging 60s. That London scene of miniskirts, mods, rock music, and sexual liberation. She was the English Rose with an edge. Paparazzi snapped her dancing at Soho clubs and rubbing shoulders with the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix, whom she later called the sweetest man, so sensitive, so fragile. It was all fun and games in her youth, except beneath the surface, darkness was already gathering. In 1967, tragedy struck her family in a way that would alter the course of her life. Her beloved older sister, Sarah, just 23 years old and a new mother, died suddenly. Charlotte was told that Sarah had suffered a brain hemorrhage. In truth, her sister had died by a fact Charlotte's father kept secret from her and her mother. 3 years later, he finally confessed the truth. It was shattering. I couldn't be what I had been before. I couldn't be happy anymore. Your whole life changes, Charlotte said. The guilt, the sorrow, and the understanding that life's darkness can strike out of nowhere became a part of her. Frivolity was no longer in the cards. After Sarah's death, she felt she had to fundamentally change. Now I have to go underground. If I'm going to be in the film industry, it's not about making 60s type fun films. It's about going inside, she said. She turned away from the breezy rom-coms and sought out roles that would plumb the depths of human emotion, no matter how controversial or disturbing. This was a conscious reinvention. It was her way of processing grief. She dove into work, but not just any work that would challenge her and her audience's comfort. First, though, came a scandal in her personal life. In the late 60s, Charlotte moved in with her agent, Brian Southcombe, and a male model friend of theirs. The British tabloids had a field day, gleefully printed that Charlotte was living in a Ménage trois, an unheard-of bohemian arrangement at the time. Charlotte always denied that it was a threesome. She said it was a platonic living situation, but the whiff of sexual libertinism clung to her public image. In 1972, she married her agent Brian Southcombe, perhaps to quell the gossip, and gave birth to their son, Barnaby. Domestic bliss, however, was short-lived. Charlotte's career was about to pull her in a very different direction, away from swinging London and into the arms of European art cinema. Rampling had an instinct that she needed to get out of England to grow, so when legendary Italian director Luchino Visconti offered her a role in The Damned, she jumped. She didn't even speak Italian, but she learned her lines phonetically and threw herself into the production. The Damned was a decadent operatic film about a wealthy German family's collusion with Nazism. The film was provocative and stylish, and working on it lit a fire in Charlotte. She later said that living and working in Italy at that time woke her up from her English propriety. Me coming from a rather cold Protestant family, I woke up. That was the beginning of things for me, really, she reflected. She spent much of the next decade ping-ponging between Italy and France. Then came 1974, and The Night Porter. If The Damned opened the door to darkness, The Night Porter kicked it off the hinges. Directed by Liliana Cavani, an Italian woman unafraid of controversy, the film dared to tell a story that almost defies description. A Holocaust survivor, Lucia, encounters her former captor Max, years after the war. He had sexually abused her in the camp. Now, in a twisted turn, the two reignite their relationship, victim and torturer locked in an obsessive, fatal passion. Upon release, the film ignited a firestorm. Many critics and audiences were outraged at the very premise. Some labeled it Nazi exploitation, political pornography masquerading as art, but others saw depth in it, a disturbing examination of trauma and domination, of the blurred lines between hate and love, and at the center of it all was Charlotte's hypnotic performance. In one scene, she stares straight into the camera, her eyes heavy-lidded and defiant, as if daring the viewer to judge her. Unlike so many female roles up to then, she is not there to be nice or likable or a passive victim. She is confrontational, eerie, and perversely empowered by her sexuality. Rampling's willingness to go there, to literally and figuratively strip herself bare, astonished people. In her work, she went deeper, exposing herself in every way possible. One profile noted. Her sexuality on screen was not the giggling, submissive kind. It was challenging, almost aggressive. Lucia's infamous cabaret performance, wearing the Nazi regalia and nothing else, became an iconic cinematic image of the 70s, one that still has the power to make viewers deeply uncomfortable. And that perhaps is the point. The shockwaves from The Night Porter could have ruined a lesser actor's career. For Rampling, it did the opposite. It cemented her as an art house icon. That same year, 1974, she doubled down on her daring image by posing nude for Playboy. But this was no ordinary pin-up spread. It was shot by Helmut Newton, the era's most sensual photographer and a longtime friend. Newton's portraits of Charlotte are legendary. In one, she's sitting naked at a hotel room table with a glass of whiskey and a cigarette, staring down the camera with an expression that's equal parts bored and predatory. Throughout the 70s, Newton considered Charlotte one of his muses. Little wonder. She embodied the exact blend of severe, sexy style he adored. Yves Saint Laurent's famous loose smoking tuxedo for women was one of her go-to looks. She could rock a tailored men's suit with such authority that it became sultry. Leather jackets, thigh-high slit gowns, men's shirts casually half-buttoned. Her fashion choices always telegraphed confidence and a touch of androgyny. She once quipped that, in addition to all the sharp suits, she was at heart a jeans and a t-shirt girl, too. That ease only reinforced the idea that Charlotte Rampling wasn't performing sexy. She was sexy, inherently. Around this period, Charlotte's personal life took another dramatic turn. In 1976, at a dinner party in the south of France, she met French composer Jean-Michel Jarre, who was then a rising star. The chemistry was instant. Within days, she had left her husband Brian Southcombe for Jarre, and Jarre left his wife for Charlotte. The tabloids had a lucky day once more. Rampling had essentially run off to France with a new man. In Paris, Charlotte was now truly la légende anglaise, the English siren in the City of Lights. She started acting in French-language films. She was working with who's who of European auteurs. Liliana Cavani, again, Nagisa Oshima, Claude Lelouch, François Ozon, and more. Not that she entirely shunned Hollywood. She took selective roles with major American directors, too. For instance, playing an icy lover in Woody Allen's Stardust Memories and a chic Manhattan socialite in Sidney Lumet's The Verdict. But mainstream stardom never interested her. "It just wasn't my cup of tea," she said of Hollywood. "I wanted to go into the auteur, European world of the semi-darkness." So that's where she stayed. Meanwhile, her film roles continued to push envelopes. Perhaps most notorious is 1986's Max, Mon Amour, an absurdist dark comedy directed by Nagisa Oshima, in which Charlotte's character carries on a love affair with a chimpanzee. Yes, you read that right. A chimp. Talk about taboo. Between The Night Porter in this Pity She's a Whore and Max Mon Amour, Charlotte had completed a trifecta of Transgression on screen. Yet, important to note, she never chose these roles for shock alone. There was always an intellectual curiosity behind her choices. She was drawn to characters who existed in the grey areas of morality and desire. It's as if she was saying to audiences, don't look away. The things that scare or scandalize you, those are part of us too. By the mid-90s, however, Rampling's own life hit a rough chapter. She discovered via the newspapers that her husband Jean-Michel Jarre had been unfaithful. A very public betrayal that ended their marriage. The collapse of this 20-year relationship sent Charlotte into a tailspin. She slipped into a deep depression and withdrew from acting entirely. "I couldn't cope with having to cope. That's what depression is. You lose it. Literally. Everything stops," she later explained. For about a decade, she kept a low profile, living a non-life, as she put it, seeing only a small circle of friends. It's telling that someone as tough and prickly as Charlotte Rampling could be laid low by something as common as heartbreak. It was a humbling human moment beneath the icon veneer. She credits ultimately surviving that time to a decision to slowly crawl back to life, step by step, and an understanding that fear can make you courageous in the end. She also finally confronted the old trauma of her sister's departure from life. She poured a lot of these reflections into a slim memoir called Who I Am, which reads not like a tell-all but like poetic vignettes of memory, an impressionistic and episodic chronicle of her life's defining moments. Writing that book, she said, was like taking a walk in the wilderness of her past, an unburdening. Now, in her late 70s, Charlotte Rampling is still very much in the game, and still making waves. Most recently, she co-stars in Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, an ensemble drama by Jim Jarmusch that just took home the Golden Lion for Best Film at the Venice Film Festival. Have you seen it yet? I basically just came out of the cinema. In this Jim Jarmusch film, Charlotte Rampling plays a sharp-tongued matriarch who gathers with her grown daughters, played by Kate Blanchett and Vicky Krieps, for a tense family reunion in Dublin. Even among that A-list cast, Rampling holds her own. Wry, elegant, and a little intimidating as always. At nearly 80 years old, she can still steal a scene with a withering glance or a line delivered in her cut-glass British meets French accent. Frankly, to me, she stole the whole movie, not just the scene. It's a testament to her power that directors continue to write roles for her, and audiences continue to be fascinated by her. She's evolved from the wild Lolita of the 70s, yet still has a whiff of danger about her. So, what exactly is it that makes Charlotte Rampling so magnetic? The deeper you dig, the more you realize how calculated and self-created her persona truly is. For one, she crafted an archetype that hadn't quite existed before in English-language film. A woman who is cool and cryptic on the outside, but burning madly on the inside. She once said that she doesn't really play characters, she incarnates them. It's hard to tell where Charlotte ends and her roles begin. My work has always been integrated completely into my life and vice versa. My work is my life and my life is my work. It made me who I am, she said. Another key ingredient, mystery. In the 60s, among bubbly starlets, she had that inscrutable half-smile. In the 70s, among feminist icons, she was the one unafraid to play women with questionable morals. She has never been an open book or a people-pleaser. Even today, interviews with her can be challenging. Journalists often note that she'll deflect overly personal questions, or stare back in silence until they feel uncomfortable. This has preserved her mystique. An encounter with Charlotte Rampling isn't something one easily forgets, wrote one reporter. She's not out to be your best friend. She's out to make you feel something, maybe something unsettled. Now, aging. Charlotte has been vocally against plastic surgery and cosmetic over-tinkering. We're all vain, we're all narcissistic, we don't like to grow old. Who wants to get lines? But we can't be young. We're going on, she says. I'd rather not tamper with nature. I think it's more frightening to tamper with time and nature. If you allow yourself that luxury to be old, to be maybe ugly, to be less desirable, all that, if you allow yourself as an actor to be that at certain times, you'll find that the rewards are extraordinary, Charlotte advises. What a reframe. The result is that her face today carries the fascinating gravitas of her experiences. She does care for her skin, I'm sure, simply by leading an active life. She's an avid swimmer and stays fit. She once joked that if she could be 18 again with all she knows now, that would be great. But since that's impossible, might as well just keep evolving in the present. So, that's the beauty blueprint of Charlotte Rampling. If we take anything from her, let it be this. Be brave. In your style choices, in your life choices, and in holding every facet of yourself, light and dark. Thank you for joining me on this meditation on Charlotte Rampling's world. If you enjoyed this, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories of iconic beauties and what we can learn from them. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Charlotte. Did you find her inspiring, intimidating, or a bit of both? Let's chat in the comments. To all our channel members, again, a huge thank you. You're the Greta to my Garbo. Chin chin. And see you in the next Beauty Blueprint. I've queued up the next chapter for you here. Now go create your own blueprint.